You know, there's a lot of good that comes with being in the middle of nowhere. It makes you sort of recognize a lot of your eagerness, a lot of your necessity strips away. But it also makes you ask yourself of why does a lot of so much of what we experience have to be so embellished or gilded? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know this feeling, but when I would go like up north to see my grandma or like go into rural places, I would always be worried about, oh, there's maybe this presumption that there's not enough care of like the happenings of that. Oh, so much can go awry, or I don't know what's a part of that, but sort of that feeling of fear you get when you're used to so many of your systems, so many of your structures being available to you, and then you lose them, right? And that's normally fine. And it's very nice when you're completely untethered from your responsibilities, right? The problem that comes from that is when we start to tether lives together. We try to understand that, wait, we've existed in a urban-rural sort of digital divide. We all sort of accept that is a trade-off and sort of a privilege that we both live in, the exception of, awesome nature in the world and just sort of existing as yourself and not caught up in a lot of, again, gilded facades in which we sort of take to be as our life and our structure and the ease and the convenience that carries us through our days as fast and as lazily and as haphazardly as we do, on how you're never worrying much. And of course, this is stupid. This is taking it on the average. You're unlikely to be worrying as much about how you're making your food, about how you're preparing the heat for your home, how you're traveling from one place to another when there isn't highway, when there isn't means. It sort of makes you take a more out of society, take off grid, which is always so fun because we get challenged in small ways within our lives to see how much of that ground truth knowledge or trust in a skill or ability or way of doing something, we get tested on how well we can do those things. And out here, you're sort of being brought up of those testing of testing your dexterous ability, testing your intuition of navigation, spatial awareness, navigating your pains of hunger tolerance, of thermal tolerance, who knows? All types of things that normally you are afforded the comforts because they allow you to do so many other modern things well, like simply being inside and not being able to use certain things. Of course, having connections and whatnot, but the question is, we live in a divided world. We live in a tale of two cities. One absolutely techno future or whatever the hell, and one is or the earth, basically. And when you try to like find a way to live your life, and you're not trying to be just absolutely intoxicated with the possibilities of society's collaboration, and rather you're to be sort of enamored with whatever, spikes of energy that your own local place can provide. Namely, if like you're selling the jewels of the mountain in which you've mined out, that builds your spikes of energy. You're selling the fish that you catch, that builds spikes of energy. Cities need to be able to cities in very rural places still need to be able to provide exciting things, captivating things in which like entice people. And that doesn't always mean a bunch of money put into that. That doesn't always mean like necessitating like all of the most evolutionarily successful societal mechanism. Like think of extremely forward thing, like we think like Targets, Walmart's, giant mega stores that are basically like bodies of success because they simply fulfill an easy, low cost, low effort means to get a good, and so therefore economically they're a powerhouse and they can control a lot of factors in which allow them to sustain. But when we talk about like a small town and its resource comes from such a small sliver, and that sliver does not fuel a sustainable model for the city, do you hurt? I would love to learn more about this stuff, but I just mean to say the feelings you get when you go to somewhere rural, and it's not just beautiful nature, it's a question as to how this will look in the future. It's like, it's a question of how do spaces survive, and how do you know when you're watching something needing an answer for how it's going to be in 50 years. Places in where not that it, but hold on, that was stupid, because like, not that it's going to just inevitably disappear, but just asking, with our world in which is so ferociously going after the elements in which we try to hack ourselves into desiring the most ease of use things instead of the higher order tasks and complexities which build us character, build us desires to do things on our own and to be our own selves. What I'm curious about is that fear I get is existential for the places I go to, like my grandma's hometown, like when you go far up north, and things are probably doing way better than you're perceiving, but what you see is like places that are more difficult to latch on to the huge, wasteful, economic, consumeristic masses in which occupy like cities, where we're just like, we couldn't be fucked to do anything but purchase. We don't go for a happy walk. We have parents who are like, oh, I need to go pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, not hundreds to thousands of dollars to have my person do this because it's, excuse me, I just said have my person do this. I'm talking about like child care and when you, sorry, this is a very stupid way to get into the element of when laziness and cost minimization bleed into your life in ways that make you unnecessarily lower your burden when you're able to bear the weight of the task. What I mean to say is like, oh, you're holding 4 boxes and someone is coming up to you and says, I have a cart available for you to carry these boxes. Do you want this cart? And it's like, my car is 10 feet away. And it's like, well, but think about all of the times that you're carrying this 10 feet thing, and you should minimize further, because who knows what other burden you might need to carry another box next time you're, anyway, I feel like that's, I'm not saying brainwash, but we add reward functions to our decisions, which are mainly, seemingly, cost minimization engines, okay? And when we're in an environment where our worldview is of growth, is of expansion, you're always looking at how do I minimize my burden of these sets of things in order to enter a steady state so that I'm ready for the next thing. Is that a curse of a forward-looking like growth mindset? And when you're in places where growth is not the purpose because you've sort of been here before, you've been taken advantage of before, you've seen how you need to be sustainable and not get damaged by actions in which are hard to tell the outcomes of, and so therefore that's That's sort of what I think of. When I drive into a rural spot and I'm thinking about the place, I'm thinking about where I fit in or where I would want to fit in and where our people on average feel like they fit in, and seeing like, I wish I understood the spaces more to understand how they stay alive, so that I don't have such a ignorant opinion about this sort of massive dichotomy of futurism, growth, and, sustainable. I'm just saying Earth because it's basically just living in places where economy has not taken away the innocence of just someone's attempt at life. Our economy takes away the innocence of someone's honest attempts in our rapidly growing world so often. And when we're desperate, those rejections of those honest attempts kill genuine appeals to our own selves. I get worried when I approach places that are in that sustainable Earth, and I'm working on understanding that they're not going to die. It's existential in some way, but they're not going to die, and you got to figure out what's so good about a place that keeps it so far so good. Because that's all we got to figure out is an essentialism, but a high quality essentialism for the pillars of energy in which a city, town, state, country, world can provide. So far, so good.